Project form entries. English, Chan. This project is by Tan Lee and is for Chan. Stephanie Chan. The portrayal of woman in popular culture. Woman adds so much value to film and popular culture other than benefiting the man. That's my thesis and that's my statement for this project slide. I chose to do a slide because I want to show the more pictorial element, just like Fun Homes. They were able to really incorporate and really emphasize the theme throughout the entire book through the depictions. Women in history have been always suppressed to improve male roles. So my point is basically women throughout history, they've been really suppressed of their own individuality to just improve the males. We must comprehend the history of women before even the creation of this country. Women are forced to have less dominant roles, as illustrated in House in Mango Street. Women of color struggle with representation in Western media and in their community. Esperanza dreams of pursuing her own authenticity and passion, but unfortunately there is a prominent and substantial pressure to become just like all the ladies in her mother culture. Even though she doesn't want to follow her own culture exactly, she has stuck in the middle between her own culture and the American Western culture. For those who are women of color, pursuing authenticity can be challenging, but it is satisfying. There is plenty of room in the last century with the Immigration Act of 1965 and women's rights. Strong women of color can be found in multi-billion-dollar franchises like Fast and Furious, Spider-Man, Catwoman, Charlie's Angels, and Hunger Games. Women are no longer forced to have less dominant roles. Women can fight in movies and not be looked as a tomboy. The implementation and incorporation of strong women perpetuate a sense of pride for women. There are so many benefits. It's inspiring to young children that there can be a diversity of women that they can become. For a young, when I was looking up to these young women that were in movies already, I always wanted to be the strong, powerful main character one, and it's just so beautiful. Since the Civil Rights Movement in 1965 Immigration Act, all races are starting to be in movies, with immigrants from the U.S. being able to see their own ethnic group be portrayed in film in the most beautiful way. There is still a struggle with representation for a woman of color, but being critical is necessary. There is a quote that I really want to use for this project. I do not want to find a tragic flaw that will end Star Wars. However, it was not long before I was able to reconcile my critique and my fandom. I remember that to be a true Star Wars fan, you must hate Star Wars. I disagree with that point, but I would say that people can still love film franchises, but be critical simultaneously at the same time. I think Star Wars is the most beautiful film ever. There's millions of different life lessons that you can learn, Being critical is utilized to improve the importance of a film. Kelly Marie Tran, Rose Tico actor from Star Wars, was criticized for having a role that was not particularly found. When people see women of color, their role is intended for significance or importance. Star Wars has endless potential for female leads. With the approach of Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi, I wonder if the phenomenon would continue. People would love to have strong female characters that have complexity, ups and downs, power, intelligence, strength, and dialogue within the film. This time, the number of strong, complex women increase. That's a huge benefit for the entire film community that represents the humanity and society on Earth. This illustrates that George Lucas intended there to always have strong and powerful characters. It's just that recently, there's been a quick implementation with the sign of times, with women becoming more powerful for their voices and rights being more balanced and equal. Women have power and intelligence nowadays. Women are almost as likely to become CEO and CFOs as males. We need to be incredibly proactive, as this recent change is helping the world recognize real female talent. Yes, complexity, power, intelligence in the workplace and the film and in entertainment and in real life and in personal life is how women can feel free no matter what place they're at. Women have a strong affinity of remaining close to their roots. Mainstream culture stretches the potential of talent. For a woman to be represented in mainstream culture, it really beckons the reality. Women can be internationally well-known in months. This helps women of color be recognized beyond the community, like rappers, Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, Beyonce. Truthfully, we conject that women in popular culture provide another supplemental perspective necessary to discover nuances between real-life character development. This is truthfully because as humans grow and expand in real life, people in movies or characters in movies expand and grow and they become powerful, just like Ahsoka from the Clone Wars. She started as the apprentice of Anakin Skywalker, but later she became really strong through the persistence. Women in Star Wars have real-life implications to us. My daughter and I exist within the larger world. This is a quote. My daughter exists within the larger world of the deeply religious South. I was born from a long line of fundamentalist ministers. My grandfather, and my father were all ministers or fundamentalist Pentecostal Protestant churches. I grew up in various small towns scattered across southern Georgia, following my dad's ministry. The theme of Star Wars over the decades are about inheritance, making the right decisions, and rising over the forces against you. I'm basically saying how life provides us with tons of challenges that makes us cry, challenges that makes us do the wrong decisions, and we wonder why we do these things. And just like we could see characters in Star Wars struggle with real life, we can struggle with real life and relate to them, that we are not alone. There is an overlying theme in Rey of hopefulness from the humble background. Because she was a scavenger and she was isolated, there is hopefulness. She wields the hopefulness that Luke Skywalker had in Return of the Jedi. Isolated and sad, but was able to redeem the long-lost father that turned to the dark side. Rey combats and challenges the idea of being woman being submissive. So many people thought Rey's character in The Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker, due to her grit and never-ending tenacity, was the best to ever exist. But there's also so many minor Star Wars characters that were phenomenal. Aayla Secura, Botar Swan, Mara Jade, Satele Shan, that have a huge role in the expanded universe. The expanded universe maximizes the full stories of Star Wars to a full extent, providing strong female characters with the training and with the journey. Star Wars is a reality and a fictionary commentary that gives important life lessons. Star Wars gives so many important life lessons psychologically as patience. A true Jedi has patience and is able to make the right decisions. True. There's so many important life lessons in Star Wars psychologically with the patience. And patience leads to making right decisions, and right decisions leads to a healthy mindset. Not all the time, but I strongly believe that the true Jedi are the most powerful when they're able to be farsighted. Previously, this is a quote from the thesis I'm studying, a study of culture would include only the works and traditions of the elite high culture, deliberately ignoring the low culture of the commoners. However, from the onset of the cultural studies, the way of the life of the non-elite gained equal consideration for studying, learning, and understanding. This shows that the only cultures that would be portrayed in film are the high cultures, are the well-known cultures. And this is an interesting sentiment because there's lack of Vietnamese American portrayal in the film media, and there definitely needs to be improvement. Just like if you watch the books like The Great Gatsby, it's the high culture that is represented. They don't really care about the Vietnamese American culture. All this relates to woman media and woman history, as even in ancient Asian culture there's a grasp on male superiority that only male can be dominant. George Lucas introduced diversity to the mass media audience. Previously, a study of culture would include only the works and traditions of the elite high culture, deliberately ignoring the low culture of the commoners. However, from the onset of cultural study, the way of life of the non-elite gained equal consideration for studying, learning, and understanding. In 1977, George Lucas became the best filmmaker to exist due to the sheer diversity of Star Wars Aliens. It was the first time diversity to a true extent was morally introduced. Cultural studies is a deeper dive to the cultural advancements of women. Understand. This is from the thesis that I really want to examine, to incorporate, and to study and analyze. Understanding that cultural studies aims to examine all that has been thought and said, not just the best of what has been thought and said. It's vital understanding of the field of cultural studies. All social practices are considered, and their implications are examined. The cultural text, including popular culture films coming from any historical moment, can be introduced in different ways by different groups, classes, genders, and races. Cultural events can be interpreted in many perspectives and aspects. Some see the Vietnam War as to free the South Vietnamese, while some people saw it as an unnecessary war. Just like those who are woke, they have a greater love for female appreciation, while some would quickly discard it. This is very much true. people can read a book and there's many different interpretations of the book. Some people say the book's about feminism. Some people say the book is about being more morally awoke. And yes, this is my project, and I really hope you appreciate it. My project for English Chan.